Good afternoon. I'm Jim Rice, the Deputy Director here at the Center for Transportation Studies, Transportation and Logistics. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Scott Davis. Scott has been Chairman and CEO of UPS since 2007. He's here from Atlanta as our guest for today's MIT CTL Global Leadership Lecture Series. During our program, he'll talk about the economy, logistics, and one of Scott's favorite subjects, global trade. And of course, you'll get a chance to ask him anything else on your mind. We'll do that with some quick Q&A after his talk. Thank you very much, Scott, for joining us. Scott leads one of the world's largest logistics firms. Last year, UPS had nearly $50 billion in revenue and served customers in more than 220 countries. UPS has one of the largest workforces in this country, with about 400,000 employees worldwide. In addition to his leadership at UPS, Scott is a member of the President's Export Council, which is the main national advisory committee on global trade. He's also a member of the Business Roundtable. He's on the board of Honeywell International, and he's a trustee of the Annie E. Casey Foundation, which was started by UPS founder Jim Casey to help underprivileged youth. In 2008 and 2009, during the heat of the financial crisis, Scott was chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. So he brings us a unique and informed perspective on the world around us. It's my pleasure to welcome and have a colleague of mine interview the Chairman and CEO of UPS, Scott Davis. Now, conducting the interview will be Professor Yossi Sheffi, who's the Director of the MIT Center for Transportation and Logistics. Yossi is the Alicia Gray II Professor of Engineering Systems, Civil and Environmental Engineering, and he's the director and founder of the MLOG, Master of Engineering and Logistics program, and recently finished a term as director of the Engineering Systems Division, which he took over in 2007. Now, to begin our session, we're going to set the stage with a couple of videos, and so I want you to sit back and enjoy these before we turn the stage over to Yossi and Scott.
The best business models are the ones where people work together. And as we understand supply chain more and more, the relationships that business entities enter into can really change the game. What you see is relationships are the key to success.
If you look at UPS, you think about them as being a mover of a package from point A to point B. I think that's what's been so interesting about the relationship with Toshiba. We started off with that kind of a relationship, how to get a PC from the factory floor into the customer's hands. But by sitting down, looking at our complete supply chain, talking about our repair process, talking about our parts management, we evolved into being so much more.
Toshiba was a UPS customer, and they came to us, and one of their biggest issues was the turnaround time in the repair model.
A lot of people, including a lot of my relatives, when they ask me what I do for a living, I'm like, well, I repair laptops at UPS. Like, what? You repair laptops at UPS?
15 years ago, technical repair wasn't something that we would have ever considered. We realized that that was the right thing to do for Toshiba and was also a great opportunity from a business standpoint for UPS.
What you see here, over 10,000 square feet of dedicated technical space to do repairs for laptops for Toshiba.
In the repair side of our business, a real breakthrough. We could utilize the UPS stores, we could utilize the logistics capability, the repair process, and significantly improve the customer's experience with Toshiba products.
For Toshiba, UPS is shipping the laptop, UPS is receiving the laptop, UPS is repairing the laptop, and UPS is shipping the laptop back to the customer.
Laptop computers have become a vital part of the consumer's everyday use. They expect that product to always be on, always connected, and that required us to get more specific about the repair process.
A great example of the evolution of supply chain is really comparing Toshiba's old model to the current model that we have today.
With their old model, when someone took their laptop in, they would have to test it, and then they would have to put it on hold because then the parts were going to have to ship to them. That process took them 14 to 21 days to repair the product. In our operation, the parts are in-house, right next to the biggest repair depot that Toshiba has. When we need a part, we get the part and we ship the product the same day. You've taken 4, 5, 6 legs of transportation basically down to 2, one in and one out.
The need to have as fast as possible of a repair process with minimal downtime is the #1 requirement of consumers. Give me a quality repair and get it back to me as quickly as you possibly can.
The worst business advice anyone ever got was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You have to always be thinking about, how can we do this better? How can we do it differently?
I think one of the things that we've learned with UPS is their willingness to be a partner. They really understood the overall experience that we were trying to create for the customers that buy Toshiba products.
We want to understand the complete supply chain for our customers. Toshiba came to us wanting a solution to a logistics problem. When there's issues in the field, and how you resolve those issues and how quickly can you resolve those issues so that you can maintain a high level of customer satisfaction. That's logistics.
The laptop business is extremely competitive, and where Toshiba was and where they wanted to go were 2 different places, and we were there to try to help them bridge that gap.
Relationships are the key to successful business. I'm not saying it's easy, and it takes time to build relationships, but there's nothing like a success to help build trust.
Here, Susie, use my phone. It has a calculator.
Thanks, Dad.
Bye-bye.
It is easy to reverse engineer any product. However, building a supply chain that can deliver globally creates a real competitive advantage.
First step, we receive inventory, advanced shipping and production to the CTL two-handed slide. You have to decide, how many lemons do I need to order? How much sugar do I need to order?
Where do you want to go?
How about Asia?
Sure.
Our lemonade stand is gonna rule. Order it. We can get them for lower prices at other stores.
No.
We'll be ordering the same amount every month.
Good deal.
Deal. What is your best price for 10 crates of lemons?
300.
Can you match it?
Sure.
Can you beat it?
Okay, 275.
Great, we have a deal. How may I help you?
I'll have an espresso, please.
Thanks. Have a nice day, sir.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. You just saw the world premiere of the CTL, ad.
It was a lot funnier than ours was.
Thank you very much, Scott, for joining us. Let me start asking with a few questions about trade. Earlier this month, you said in a speech that our country needs to trade to grow more jobs. With high unemployment rate, it's a top, public policy issues. Can you explain the connection between trade and job in particular, because people think that trade steals jobs away from U.S. workers?
Absolutely. First of all, it's great to be at MIT, and thanks for joining us today. MIT has been a great partner of UPS's for a lot of years. We've done many things together, including helping plan our flight dispatch, our network planning. Certainly helped us in the logistics arena. So it's great to be here, Yossi, with you. I'm certainly an active proponent of trade. UPS moves about 6% of the GDP in the U.S. every day in our trucks and planes, and about 2% of the global GDP. I'm really a believer that the United States right now is a mature economy. We have over 9% unemployment, and it's really going to take us to get at least 3.5% to 4% GDP growth to make a dent in unemployment. And I really don't think we can do that if we don't grow exports. As a country today, we do not export enough. About 11% of our GDP is made up of exports, where countries like Germany, over 50% of their GDP is made up of exports. Germany is a country that has higher wages than the United States on average. So you can do that even at higher wages than the rest of the world. So one of the problems we have is not enough recognition in the population base and in Congress that trade actually creates more jobs than we lose. I mean, most of the jobs we've lost in this country have been through automation, through brilliant minds like yourselves who obviously automate things and make things better and easier to do. But we generate, I think, 2 out of every 5 non-farm payroll jobs in this country relate to companies that import and export jobs. So 95% of the consumers are outside the United States. 1% of our small and medium-sized companies export today. We have to do a better job of helping small and medium-sized companies export. They're a little intimidated by it, it's complicated, and customs are difficult. We got to make it easier to do that. So I think it's incumbent on us. If we're going to grow the economy, we're going to reduce unemployment, I think the biggest driver has got to be exports. And we got multinationals do a pretty good job in that world, but small and medium-sized enterprise do not, and we've got to help them be successful there.
Thanks, Scott. You are on the President's Export Council. Can you talk a little bit about, now you talk about the significance of the problems. What is the President's Council doing about it, trying to boost U.S. export? Is this working? What can we expect to see?
Well, I actually chair the Trade Promotion and Advocacy Committee, which the responsibility is to try to educate the public that trade is not a 4-letter word. Trade actually is something that's good, and the public is a challenge, but Congress is a bigger challenge. And it's, I don't know the exact numbers, but I've been told that 50 to 60% of our Congress does not have a passport.
Oh,
and so we're legislating right now in this country with people who are introverted, looking purely inside the United States, and that's dangerous. It's not going to work. So part of the job is to educate Congress and the public that trade does create jobs and it's good for this country. The things at the Export Council that we've focused on are a variety of things. Obviously, it starts with free trade agreements. We're sitting here with 3 free trade agreements, with South Korea, Colombia, and Panama that have been really negotiated 4 years ago, and will create a lot of jobs. South Korea itself will create 70,000 jobs in this country. And because of partisan bickering, we're still sitting there not getting it done. I do think that in the next 2 to 3 weeks we'll have Congress approving these agreements. And when President Lee of South Korea comes here on October 13th, I'm hoping for a big announcement. But that's part of it. There's many other issues out there. Export controls are a big deal out there. There's a variety. Back in the Cold War, there were a lot of export controls that were developed to prevent sensitive technology getting to enemies of the United States. Well, it got broad, and you had the State Department with a set of export controls. You had Commerce with a set of export controls. They were cumbersome, confusing to the public, and too broad. And we had things like brake pads that went on tanks. Well, these same brake pads went on fire trucks. But because they went on tanks, U.S. companies could not export them. So people bought them from other countries. So real broad. So one of the things that the administration has done is they're going to consolidate, into one department, the export control lists. And what they're doing is they're kind of building higher walls around fewer products. So in other words, the real sensitive stuff we'll protect. But the initial thoughts are 2/3 of these products that are restricted will be freed up for shipment. That's going to help. As a country, we need to study why other countries are doing a better job. So we've actually asked the Commerce Department to benchmark a country like Singapore, who gets it. I mean, they're very successful. They run the country effectively, and they get exports. Germany, who has a different approach. I mean, Germany, 50%, I said earlier, they export, they do it right. Now, their education process is different. Certainly, they have the apprenticeship program, and they have people commit at an earlier age, between age 15 and 19, as to what their vocation, which direction they're going to go. Is that right or wrong? I'm not positive, but it's something we need to evaluate because it could be helpful here in the United States. Visas, here at MIT, we educate brilliant people, and they get their degrees, and then we say you got to leave the country, and we create a competitor. I mean, it's silly. It's absolutely silly. So there's a variety. So there's a list of probably 10 or 12 items we're working on with Congress and with the administration to accelerate, make it easier to trade, and a big part is helping against small business. One of the things at UPS we do, we've identified 8,000 or 9,000 customers that export to one country. And 1% of small, I said 1% of small businesses export at all, and 70% of those export to one country. So it's generally they export across the border to Canada or to Mexico. So we've picked out 8,000 or 9,000 customers who go to one country and are trying to get them to go to a second country. Because if they get one country, they can figure out the second country. So variety of, we can all help, I think, in educating small business and speed up this process.
Thanks. Related to this, there's MIT now has a study about the manufacturing in the United States. And is there a future for manufacturing in the United States? What is your opinion? Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I think there is, Yossi. I think that I mean, we're still, I guess it's arguable whether the United States or China is the biggest manufacturer in the world. They're pretty close. In 2010, I think the United States was still #1. 2011, China may have eked by us, but I think there is a role for manufacturing in this country. We use Germany as an example. Germany has a higher average wage rate than the United States, and they're a very successful manufacturer. So we got to do it. I don't think we're going to necessarily be compete on cost, but certainly on innovation and on quality, we can be a very good competitor. So I don't see any reason why the United States cannot be a big competitor going forward. I was in Louisville, Kentucky yesterday with the gentleman who runs the GE facility with appliances, and they're bringing a lot of jobs back to the United States to build refrigerators and appliances. Primarily, they think they can control the operations better. So I think, I'm not sure that's going to be the typical, but there's opportunity out there to do a better job. Clearly, in alternative energy, there's things we can be innovative, although we're letting China get a lead there also. We can do a better job. I think there is a future.
One of the things that you did not talk about when I asked you about the export is the infrastructure situation in the United States. Can you talk a little bit about where we are and where we should be?
Yeah, actually I had Secretary Geithner with me in Louisville yesterday for 4 hours, and Louisville is where we have our major world port air hub, kind of the biggest air hub we have in the world. And we've actually put $2 billion into expansions in Worldport in the recent years. And the reason we did that is we do believe cross-border trade is going to grow faster the next 10 years than the last 10 years. So Secretary Geithner and I did a press conference afterwards, and I just used the analogy. I said that the country needs to do the same thing UPS is doing. We have to make investments. The country is not making the necessary investments in infrastructure right now. And yet we've set a goal to double exports in the next 5 years. The administration has, and the Export Council is trying to make that happen. It's impossible if we don't have adequate, infrastructure. And I guarantee you, we're not going to have adequate port capacity. We're not going to have adequate rail capacity, adequate highways, adequate air traffic control. the way we're going right now. So we need to increase the investment. So I know the administration has recently proposed as part of the jobs bill to invest in infrastructure. I think infrastructure is an area where you really are making long-term investments that make the U.S. a more competitive country as we go forward, and it creates jobs at the same time. So I'm a big fan of infrastructure investments, and we've got to do a better job. We're not doing it. I was in in Louisville, and there's two bridges that connect Louisville to southern Indiana over the Ohio River. And one of those two bridges got shut down about 2 weeks ago because it has cracks, and it's going to be shut down for an entire year, it looks like. It was kind of ironic. I didn't want to bring it up because it's Kentucky is Senator McConnell's state, and Ohio is Congressman Boehner's state. And it was a sensitive topic, but I think that we got big challenges, and that's not unique. One of the stats that we shared yesterday is that UPS trucks, if we get delayed 5 minutes a day, the average UPS truck in the United States gets delayed 5 minutes a day, it costs us $100 million a year. And I guarantee you we're delayed at least 5 minutes a day in congestion. So we got it, and then it goes hand in hand with environment. Nothing's worse for the carbon footprint than trucks out there idling, other than 747s out there idling. That's worse yet, but it's an issue.
Yes. Thanks. Let's change subject a little bit. I mentioned before that your predecessor, Mike Esco, used to quote that UPS invests $300 million a year in buying truck and $1.2 billion in information technology. So is it a trucking company or an information technology company? Can you talk a little bit about some of the information technology innovation that UPS has developed and utilized?
Well, I think what's changed, and you're absolutely right, I think probably starting about 25 years ago when we started tracking packages, it became pretty clear that information was as important as getting the package there on time. You need to know where it is at any point in time. The world had gone to just in time, and they'd stock less inventory, and so you need to know where that component or that part was, because if the part didn't get there, it stopped your manufacturing process. So you have to have visibility. So I think the biggest changes, Yossi, we've made are better visibility tools on technology. We know where the packages are at any point in time. Knowing where this information is, knowing the night before when the packages come in, it allows you to run a better operation. In other words, we can route and schedule the night before. Most effective routing for our drivers, so that they drive less miles, they do it more efficiently. And obviously, I think we save tens of millions of miles a year just by more effective routing and scheduling. Helped us an awful lot operationally, but it also creates product offerings. We have introduced 4 years ago a delivery intercept product that if you're receiving a package of sweaters at one retail store and you decide you got enough inventory, it needs to go somewhere else, we can intercept that product and redirect it to another store on the spot. And then our latest announcement was just 2 weeks ago. We announced a product called My Choice. Yeah, and My Choice really is in the day of online shopping, and all of you are probably online shoppers today. We deliver right now to 100 million homes a year in the United States. 100 million homes a year, a lot of homes. But the frustrating thing for if you're receiving packages a lot is you're not home, and it requires delivery or authorized signature. And you get a delivery notice on your door, and you're upset. You come home, and they're going to have to ship it the second time and the third time, which is, again, bad environmentally. You burn more miles. So what we've done is we've really kind of handed control over this process to the homeowner, the receiver of the package, and we're allowing them with this My Choice program to receive it the night before, electronic notice saying your package will be delivered the next day. And if it's not going to work for you, you have the ability to redirect it to a different address. You can actually electronically authorize. You can just leave it at the door. I'm signing for it electronically on your phone or on your computer. You can have a 2-hour delivery window option. So in the past, this has all been controlled by the shipper, by the Amazons, the Apples. Now we're saying, okay, we're giving you control. So because nothing's more frustrating, I say, than not getting that package. But this is only because of all the technology and information we've developed over the years. We have to have great address management systems. We've got to have great visibility of where the package is.
Scott, you described the UPS in our discussion, described the fleet as a rolling laboratory. What did UPS learn from all these experiments in terms of alternative fuels, other attempts to improve efficiency?
Well, clearly, we run one of the biggest fleets in the world, and I think that we've got, I think we're trying 8 different technologies out there, and about 2,200, 2,400 now, Randy? About 2,400 vehicles. And I think that what we found out is not just one solution, out there. It's a variety of solutions. I think that, we do hybrid electric, plug-in electric, hydraulic hybrid, propane, compressed natural gas, liquid natural gas. We found that liquid natural gas is the best solution for long haul. To get the range you need for our trucks that are going hundreds and hundreds of miles, you're not going to satisfy that today with electric or with propane or other sources. Liquefied natural gas has the density, the ability to satisfy those needs. So, like, depending on what you're looking for, what the solution is, if you're working downtown Boston or downtown New York, where very few miles, then all electric will work fine. But if you're going, past 80, 90, 100 miles a day, it's not going to work properly. We believe it or not, we actually had an electric vehicle working in Manhattan in the 1930s. So we've been at this a long time trying to do it. The challenge we have, I think, is to get. This is back in an area where I think you need a public-private partnership and you need agreement on the technologies. Now, the LNG, the liquid natural gas, is a great solution, and it's the right answer from fossil fuel standpoint, I think, for us. But the cost of a tractor is twice what a diesel tractor is today. So there's not enough scale out there. And if we can get and fueling infrastructures costs a lot of money. There's not a lot of,
Sure.
CNG or LNG fueling infrastructures out there. So you got to build those. So I think business has got to band together and work with government to say, this is the technology solution we're going to go at, and let's build this in scale, and you'll bring the cost down. But right now, there's no agreement. I did a recent panel with 8 governors, and 8 governors had 8 different solutions. And you got to get some harmony there. I mean, I'm not going to try to lecture on how to get politicians to agree on anything, because I've given up on that. But I think that we've got to get some agreement between business and with government and build this in scale to make it work.
Scott, in the video, we saw the Toshiba case, that how UPS expanded its services, and now it does overnight repair and cuts down the whole supply chain cycle of fixing, of repairing and sending back to the customer laptops. I visited the Louisville campus, and there are lots more than being done there. Can you talk a bit about some of the other examples of where UPS has moved into industry well beyond what people understand as just the shipping and warehousing, just the transportation warehousing?
Yeah, I think we about, I guess, in 1997, 1998, kind of broadened our charter from being just a package delivery company to being an enabler of global commerce. And so what does that mean? It really means you need to broaden the services. So we went out and did like 40 acquisitions in that time frame, bought a lot of capabilities, from freight forwarding capabilities to ground freight, less than truckload capabilities, brokerage capabilities, healthcare expertise, you name it. But examples, Yossi, of what you're talking about, I think, are, we have a major presence in the healthcare industry today. And what's changed in healthcare, in the last probably 10 to 15 years is healthcare companies were very successful for a lot of years. The pharma companies had great margins and had the ability to be maybe a little loose on the supply chain. But what's happened today is, patents have expired, generics are a large percentage of the sales, margins are tight, costs are more important, and they're refocusing on R&D. They figure that the real key, what they're good at, is research and development. So let's focus on R&D, and let's bring in the UPSs of the world to help us with the supply chain. So we're, more and more, we're picking up. Merck just recently turned over a large part of their supply chain. We had a lot in the U.S. Now we've added Asia, Latin America, and more in Europe. They're handing more of that over to us. But for us, it means we've got to be extremely reliable. You're moving really sensitive stuff, temperature controlled. It's got to be there on time. We're moving, parts that are critical for surgeries. People are on the operating table and need that part at 8:30 in the morning. Better be there at 8:30 in the morning if it's going to work. We have pharmacists, in our Louisville hub prescribing, insulin pumps for diabetics right now. Because if you're diabetic and you need an insulin pump, you need it the next day. So rather than, we have pharmacists working for us, ready to go and doing that. So we really broaden the business an awful lot. And we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to look where's industry going. We got to stay ahead and talk to our customers. But it's do a lot more things than I think you think of when you think of UPS.
Thank you. Scott, what changes do you envision to supply chains, in the future? The academics, economists thinking that it will go closer to home, will get more global, either the world will be flat or more hilly or whatever you want to look at it. What's your opinion?
You tell me the price of fuel. I think clearly that depending on energy costs and availability, that's going to drive that. In 2008, when oil got to $145 a barrel, we started to see some of the insourcing, people moving manufacturing back closer to the end consumer. So if it was the United States, more manufacturing came from Asia back to Mexico. In Europe, we saw a lot of manufacturing go to Central and Eastern Europe to serve Western Europe. So that got started, and then obviously the recession hit, energy prices dropped, and that kind of stopped. You're not seeing a lot of it right now. We've spent a lot of time at UPS. We talked about scenario planning today. We do a lot of it at UPS, and we try to look at what's the world going to look like in 2020. And we had an Energy 200 project that if energy gets to $200 a barrel, what's that going to do? And I do think that will drive more insourcing. Not totally, but I think you'll see more, or say insourcing, near sourcing closer to the end consumer. So something we got to be prepared for. Fortunately, at UPS, we have mostly mobile assets where airplanes, where you can, if it moves, you can move the airplanes. We don't have, billions of dollars in factories and those type of things, so we can make that work. But it's going to be an interesting period. I have not seen much of the near sourcing movement since the recession. But if energy prices do spike again, you'll likely see some of that.
Related to this, which area of the world are growing fastest? Which area of the world is your business growing fastest?
Well, I think, clearly we've been doing wonderfully well in Asia, as you expect. China showed tremendous growth for many, many years, and we've done wonderful there. Surprising to most people, every year I go into the year and I look at Europe and I say, it's going to be a bad year in Europe. This economy, it's not going to grow. It's going to be flat. We're not going to grow. And we've been growing upper single digits to double digits, for 10 or 15 years there, including this year. We're growing very, very, very well in Europe. So part of what's going on there is they're a little behind the U.S. as far as the movement to small package from heavy freight. People are buying more. Whenever people are buying over the internet, you're buying one or two packages, and that really fits into the UPS network, as opposed to a full truckload type situation. So they're a little behind the U.S., so that's helping drive the business. But Germany's been doing great. Germany's been strong the last 2 years we've seen in the last decade. So it's doing okay. But I wouldn't classify Europe as the fastest growing part of the world. Everybody knows about China and India, and it's been strong there a long time. The new acronym is CIVETS, I think, that we're talking about now, and that's Colombia and Indonesia and Vietnam, South Africa, Turkey, which we've been doing extremely well in Turkey. Egypt's in there. I'm not sure if Egypt's going to stay in there based on what's gone on, but really there's kind of a new set of countries out there that we're starting to see good growth, and we're certainly preparing for the future. We've done a lot of investment in those areas. Turkey, we bought a company, probably three and a half years ago now, and it's done extremely well, and we're seeing strong business there. So it's not, the BRIC countries are certainly strong. I don't know how Russia ever got in there, to tell you the truth. I just don't see the growth in Russia, and I haven't seen the growth in Russia, frankly. But the other, certainly Brazil, India, and China have been, the BIC countries have been strong and continue to stay strong.
Related to this, Scott, what do you see as future changes in logistics processes, the way logistics is being managed?
You know, we kind of laughed about it today, I think, Yossi, when we were talking with your group. But I think, you know, I've really spent the last, 20 years of my life trying to speed the supply chain up. Let's make the supply chain as fast and as quick as we can for the customers. You know, the next 20 years could very well be slowing the supply chain down. And the reason, obviously, is environmental concerns. And I think that the example I use, we've been a multimodal company forever. And we've done that back 20 years ago. It probably wasn't so much because of just environmental reasons. It was because of fuel efficiency reasons. They kind of go hand in hand. So we've always been a company that said, okay, if you don't have to fly it, and you can make the time in transit the customer requires on a truck is 8 times more efficient than an airplane from a carbon footprint standpoint. And then rail, which we've used for decades, is 4 times more efficient than a truck. So we can move goods across the country on rail as opposed to a truck. It helps your carbon footprint. And obviously the best of all is ocean vessels. So we've always been a company that's kind of focused on let's find the most efficient way to do it. But I think that as we pay more attention to our carbon footprint, and our customers are paying more attention every day, I'm not sure that they're quite to where they need to be yet, but it's certainly going to impact all of our lives as we go forward. We've got to figure out a way to manage our carbon footprint. We spend a lot of time at UPS trying to manage the carbon footprint and managing our customers' carbon footprint. And that could mean slowing the supply chain down as we go forward.
Related to this question, we see something a lot in Europe and not in the US, and this is short sea shipping. It's a very efficient from carbon footprint method. It's not really a big thing in the US. Why is that?
I think there has been just more focus in Europe. I think there's been a lot more focus in Europe for a lot longer, and clearly, the cap issues over there they've got are a big deal. And we started talking about energy policy in the United States and stopped. And I think I can go off a long time on policy in the United States. I think we've got Europe's got their problems, with sovereign debt, but they're pretty clear on the global warming situation. Yes. The United States really hasn't come in on a firm energy policy, and we need to do it. Whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, just like the debt ceiling, whether you agree or don't agree, you got to make a decision. The uncertainty right now in this country is enormous, and consumer confidence, I think, relates directly to lack of decision making in Washington, right now, and so sort of hand in hand there. I think that if we had firmer energy policy, you'd probably answer that question.
You talk about slowing down the supply chain. What would be the impact on UPS when you slow down the supply chain? I mean, moving fast was what you're about.
Well, I think that we're moving fast is what we're about, but I think it's getting there in the time the customer needs it to get there, the most efficient way possible. And we've always done that. I think we've always, like I say, we started as a ground company, and we got a tremendous ground operation. We got a tremendous integrated network. You're still going to have goods going across continents and around the world, and you're going to have high-value goods are still going to be flown. You're not going to real high-value technology goods will probably not come across
on the boats.
On the boats, because they need to get there quicker, and they're too expensive to sit in inventory. But I don't think it changes our model much at all, because it's the way we've always run the business. So we got to figure out the most efficient way to move the goods to meet the customer's needs in the most carbon efficient manner possible.
You mentioned before that you did 40 acquisitions. So related to this, maybe I have 2 questions. First of all, buying versus developing your own. The next question, UPS has a very distinct culture. How does it work with integrating the UPS culture, or integrating the companies into UPS? Some of them are very different than UPS, or have been very different.
No, they are. The buying versus building, I think buying versus building it depends on the company. I think generally building is less risky than buying. For us, our philosophy was not buying large companies, but buying companies that had capabilities or geographical needs that we had. So we bought a lot of companies, not mega companies, because we have a huge customer base and plenty of revenue. We're looking for capabilities. I think it's less risky if you buy a company from that perspective.
Capabilities, yeah.
And so I think we've done it very successfully over the years, and been very happy with the acquisitions. I'm an example of a company that got acquired by UPS. You know, I was running a technology company in Oregon back in the 80s, and you know, it was a, you know, we'd take the company public, we sold it to UPS, and I figured I'd hang around a few years through the integration and then go start another technology company. And found out UPS, you know, had a great culture, a great place to work, and it was easy to integrate. Now, it was a challenge for us back then, because we have pretty strict rules, and I used to go to work in jeans and flip-flops and had to wear suits when I went to UPS. So there were some changes for me, but I think overall, you know, we kept all of our, you know, most all of our people, you know, at Tomorrow, the company we had out there, and no, I think we're bringing in capabilities. I think you know, there's always some challenges. There are bigger challenges, I think, if you have big company mergers to make it work. In our situation, we're bringing in healthcare experts who are bringing some know-how to the company that we need, and they fit in pretty well. So, but you got to work it. You know, we got a great culture. We've been around, you know, 104 years. You know, a lot of the principles of our founder we still believe in. You know, we got to treat the customer right and treat the employee right. And if we do that, I think most people will be able to blend in pretty well.
Yeah, I have a question here that you submitted by the Sloan Management Review editors, talking about what are the important linkages between analytics and sustainability in the UPS business? Do these linkages provide global competitive advantage to UPS?
Well, I think they are. We have a saying at UPS, and it's in God we trust, and everything else we measure. and we're kind of have a fetish about measuring everything. But I think the linkages we talk about are back again to the fact that we've always focused on efficiency, and by managing the company efficiently, you know, reducing fuel consumption, it plays hand into what we want to do environmentally. So I think it was a pretty easy transition for us to move from that. But we measure everything. Our sustainability report, you know, we've got 30 metrics that are included in that, and you measure the normal carbon footprint issues, the fuel consumption, the water consumption. But we measure things like, you know, employee turnover and contributions to the company. You know, the philosophy at UPS is, you know, we serve most every community in the world, and we're only as good as that community is. So if the community is healthy, then UPS will be healthy. So we're very big on giving back and volunteerism, and it's something it's always been a part of UPS. And last year, I think we 1.2 million, 3 hours we donated in time. We really focus on disaster recovery because we're good at the logistics piece of that. So we spend a lot of our time in that arena. We help some of the care agencies, you know, with their logistics, as do you, Yossi, and MIT. So I think it's just something that came natural with UPS over the years. The way we've run the company, being a multimodal focus, fits right into where we're going in carbon footprint.
Okay, guys, we have 15 more minutes. I'd like to open it up for questions. We have microphones here and here. So there's a hand, Bruce, there's a hand up there. If you can, please speak to the microphone.
Thank you for the valuable inputs. Very interesting discussion. I saw this Toshiba, you know, model which was there in the video. The question is, you know, when you're trying to get into adjacent markets or industries, what are the specific things that you look at so that, you know, the model is successful? Because a lot of companies do acquisitions and try to get into adjacent markets, but then eventually fail. And the second question, which probably is a more important question, is UPS is in the business of distribution. You know, long term, how do you see Africa as you know, one of the most strategic you know, destinations for UPS, because it kind of, you know, cover both sides of the you know, world? So thank you.
Well, Africa is going to be important as time goes on, and one of the civets, the S on that is South Africa, by the way. So I think I left that country out, but South Africa is one of the countries. But I think one of the areas that, you know, we're focused on today is healthcare. And healthcare, you know, companies are going to have to. There's huge demand right now in Africa in that arena. So we've got to support our customers. And it really gets back to your first question, I think, is when we redefined our mission to enabling global commerce. It really was around working with our customers and what needs do they have. And the global supply chain, as people started sourcing and selling around the world, it became much more complicated for them. That's when there was a need for us to broaden our service offerings from just packaged transportation. It really was our customers saying, okay, this is, I've got to buy components and I've got to sell products throughout the entire world, and I don't have the know-how to do it. I don't understand customs properly. I don't maybe understand the culture, of that country. Maybe don't have a warehouse, where if you have a warehouse you can share with, a variety of other companies, you can lessen the cost. Even in the healthcare arena, some of the big pharmas who compete with each other vigorously encourage us to share the facilities because it brings our costs down. So if you have a Merck and Pfizer who are fighting it out, they both understand it's better off if they share that facility in a UPS facility. So I think the real key there is first of all, you understand this is what the customer is looking for, and you're not straying too far from your skill set. Now, I think that in general, the distribution and logistics skill set, or what UPS has always been all about, had not been all about healthcare. And that's where you need to bring in people. The same, healthcare is a little more, it's a little more precise. It's got the temperature control, things like that. You need some know-how in that arena. But moving the goods, storing the goods, controlling the inventory levels is something we've always been very good at.
Thank you. I'm curious what kinds of moves you're making in rail. Everybody's heard about, I think most people are aware of Warren Buffett's big move. I wonder what you're doing in rail. And also, in the first film, there was mention of relationships. And one of the relationships, and you alluded to it, is the relationships with employees. And to my mind, one of the advantages that UPS has, including, to be specific, over FedEx, is that you have a union workforce. And this played out in another relationship, which is when there was the strike quite a few years ago, those drivers had relationships with the public, which I think a lot of people acknowledge was contributing to strong public support during the strike for the workers. And so my question about that piece is, what are you doing to take that potential advantage in terms of public perception and relationship to UPS that might enhance your competitiveness?
Well, the first question on rail is we've always been a big user of rail, and BNSF, who Warren Buffett bought, I think we're their biggest customer. So had a strong relationship there, and we'll continue that as long as we have the infrastructure to keep the rail service on time. And if what happens is, if we see what happened in 2006, 2007, where you have the congestion, particularly at the ports, where the rail meet the ports, and you can't meet the customer service requirements, then you've got an issue, because you have to meet requirements. We're probably number one or number two is making the rail a better service offering in this country, because we're pretty demanding. We want to satisfy our customers, so we are pretty demanding of the rail, so they make the service. But the problems are not going to be able to do it if they don't invest in the infrastructure going forward. I think the union relationship for UPS, we've been a unionized company for decades and decades, and we had one blip. Obviously, it was very visible in 1997. I would say that was not so much an issue between the company and the employees, but it was a union president who was going to get thrown out of the union, and he had a chance to get a pulpit in the public. And I think that it was a shame. It was very difficult on our customers, and it should have never happened. Since then, we've really formed a strong relationship with the Teamsters Union. And last contract we got done a year in advance, almost, of the expiration date, which in the old days that was sort of taboo in the union mentality. You always want to wait till the last minute to get leverage. But I think we have a relationship with the union where they understand that our competition is non-union, and if we get too inflexible or drag out negotiations too long, we're going to chase away customers, which is going to chase away packages, which is going to chase away jobs. And I think that we'll always have contentious negotiations, but I think we both understand that we're in this together, we'll be successful together. And I think that our drivers who you see out there in their brown trucks every day are very well paid, the best paid in the industry, great benefits, but they're the best in the business. I mean, they earn it. They work very hard. They're the emissaries for us in front of our customers, and we couldn't be prouder of them. They earn their money, and they do a great job for UPS and represent us. If they don't do the job, we're in trouble.
My question was really how to harness that reality, which I appreciate, to enhance the success of the company. Is that utilize, implement, in terms of marketing, in terms of public? Because I think there's a potential there that may not be fully part of the company marketing strategy, let's say.
Yeah, I think it's something that, we're proud of the relationship. We spend a lot of time talking to our customers, about that relationship. I don't think it's something you want to go out in the media and advertise necessarily, but I think it's something that it's frankly, our competition does it differently. On the ground side, they have independent contractors and don't have employees and don't pay pensions and health care and that type of thing. So it's a big difference. We've been vocal on that topic in the past, but we like a level playing field. But we're, right now, I think we're a very good, poster child of how a company can be successful and be organized. We're the biggest, most profitable company in the industry, and we're unionized. So you don't see that in a lot of industries, and I understand your point.
Yeah, Mr. Davis, thank you for your time. I have a question from you in the area of education. I am from Panama. I have seen my country struggle for many years to try to develop better education in logistics, and I would say, although they have done some progress, it's still a lot behind where we should be for the big expectations that we have for our country. I have also been a member of CTL for 6 years, and I have seen how MIT has developed this expertise in minting logistics experts, both here in Boston and, say, in Spain, which basically in a few years they created a world-class program, but the thing is that in very small quantities. See, we can make only a few dozen of these in each center every year, and the demand is in the hundreds or in thousands. So my question for you would be, from your perspective as an employer of logistics people, what advice would you have to both institutions like MIT and CTL that try to satisfy this demand, and to countries like Panama, which are trying to carve for themselves a future in logistics in terms of educating people in this area?
Well, I don't want to do a paid advertisement here, but I think we've talked a lot about it. And we talked about, at UPS that I think the newer generations want to learn online, and we do most of our training, learning and development at UPS online now. And we've talked about it certainly today that more of this teaching online gets to a lot more people. You certainly have, if you need a brick and mortar situation to educate, you're limiting the number of people who can get this education. So I think that the best thing we could do is to go online, be able to conduct logistics education online, and bring it to the masses, to more people. And I'm a little confused as to why it's not happening quicker as we move forward.
Let me
as is
Yossi.
So, Scott, you mentioned the importance of infrastructure, and I'm curious about your opinions on the latest proposals in Congress about an infrastructure bank, and then the limits of the fuel tax. As you know, the collections are going down as we get more efficient. So I'm curious on your opinions of the fuel tax and the infrastructure bank.
Yeah, we surprisingly to all of you, we've actually been a proponent of higher fuel taxes as long as the money goes into the infrastructure. If you raise fuel taxes and the money doesn't go into infrastructure and goes into the general fund, then it's gone, as far as I'm concerned. So we're very much a proponent of raising fuel taxes, but dedicating those funds at that point in time, get it into the roads, get it into the rail, that type of thing. What was the other question? He had something else there.
About the infrastructure bank.
Well, the infrastructure bank is something that I'm sort of intrigued by it, because for us, I like the idea that money is dedicated. I am a little fearful there could be another level of bureaucracy, though, and I really have to understand how that bank is operated. The idea is you get a little bit of leverage, using the infrastructure bank, having public funds and private funds, and maybe more money goes to infrastructure. So I certainly am intrigued by it, interested, but I want to understand it and study it more to make sure we're not having an extra layer of bureaucracy there in the process.
I have one question. It's about collaboration in the supply chain. And since UPS has developed such good processes and has the best technology in the industry, what do you do as a company to collaborate with other partners in the industry? Let's say on the LTL arena. It's a commoditized industry. What do you do to make the industry better? What do you do to revolutionize the industry by working together and collaborating with other companies?
Well, I think there's never-ending learning curve, in this business, and I think that, spending the day at MIT is a perfect example. I think we've got some real experts, in this arena, and we have to be out doing that all the time. I think that, Randy Stashik, who runs engineering, we've had a lot of contacts in the past with schools like MIT, and we want to share information. We don't have all the answers. We've got some of the answers, but I think that if we can get together with people who think about this all the time, and we you saw the ads we had in the past with these whiteboard ads. We seriously believe in the whiteboard ads. We need to sit down and do a lot of what ifs, and we spend a lot of time with our customers with the whiteboard doing the what ifs, and sometimes you see whiteboards all around the room, but I think that's the way you think through these things. So I think you just got to keep collaborating. You got to work on the academic side. You got to work in the in the business world and share ideas. But clearly we work very closely with the customers and do the whiteboarding sessions.
Some of the questions were about working with other companies. You gave one example of actually pushing the railroads for better service. Are there other examples, for example, working with maritime carriers and others?
Yeah, I think there's a variety of things. Back to rail, I think we used to do what were called trailer-on flat cars, which were big tractor trailers that you put on. Now we're putting containers on flat cars, which are more efficient. You get more goods on the train, more efficiently, which obviously saves fuel, saves the carbon situation. Maritime, we've worked with them. Some of the slow steaming that we talked about, has upset some of our customers because they're paying more money and getting it there slower. So there's some challenges there. So we obviously communicate, work with them. But I'd say that we need to work together on the infrastructure issue in the ports. Matt Rose, I was with last week, who runs BNSF, and we're working together on an infrastructure project at the Business Roundtable. He met with all the major port operators around the country and asked them, if we double exports in the next 5 years, how many of you thought about expansion? And he said out of, I think there were 60 of them there, 2 of them raised their hand.
Oh, God.
So, we've got to work together. Port operators are looking on a very short-term focus. They're looking at what happened last year, what happened this year, not looking at what's going to happen 3 years and 4 years from now and be ready for it. You can't just turn it on like that. So I'd say just working in collaboration with port operators and rail, hopefully we'll get in front of that situation. And then the other area, just real quickly on, which is a pretty sad state of affairs in the United States, is air traffic control.
Yeah.
We've got air traffic control system that has 1950s technology, radar technology. The GPS in your vehicle is more sophisticated than what's guiding your airplane, into the airport. I think we've had 20 extensions of the FAA reauthorization in Congress because they can't agree to put the money into this new air traffic control. And it's more squabbling over labor issues and other things that are holding it up. We have to invest. If we talk about a carbon footprint, I talked before, a truck's 8 times more efficient than an airplane, and what's worse than having 747 400s circling around the airport because you have a lousy air traffic control system? It's ridiculous. So all of us have got to put pressure to get that done.
You had a question over there?
Thank you for your talk, Mr. Davis. I'm a student from China, and I'm so glad to hear you say that China is one of the countries with the highest rate, highest growth rate. But we do know that at the same time, supply chain system in China or other developing countries are not mature enough, and the laws and regulations are not sufficient. So my question is this an advantage or a disadvantage for UPS, or how will UPS do, facing the problem?
Well, certainly China has done an outstanding job on infrastructure, so let me applaud them. They set an example for the United States on investing in infrastructure. The supply chain, right now, one of the problems I think in China domestically is there's a zillion small companies doing it, and I think you need some bigger companies competing there. We have great relations with the Chinese government. We did the Beijing Olympics logistics. We moved every piece of equipment in and out. We broke down opening ceremonies, set up the track and field. So China trusts us to let us do that. Important the Beijing Olympics were, but they're dragging their feet and giving us a domestic license to compete. There's sort of a natural belief they want a Chinese national champion domestically. I think China needs to let companies like UPS come in and compete within the borders to help provide better service to Chinese businesses. And as domestic consumption grows and grows, you're going to need that. You're going to need better service, better capabilities. So I'm very confident that we'll get the license soon and grow. But I think there needs to be better competition within the borders of China to help improve the supply chain there.
We have time for one last quick question. Go ahead.
Hi, Scott. My name is Sarah, and my question is towards the point that you brought up earlier about public and private partnerships. You had mentioned that LNG infrastructure is a concern, despite, say, what clean energy is doing in building an LNG station. So what role do you see UPS playing in this public-private partnership? Why not partner with clean energy to promote infrastructure, given your huge span of operations? I guess your stance on that.
No, very much. We had, in fact, a couple months ago, we had President Obama and Secretary Chu, Secretary of Energy, and Secretary of Transportation come to one of our facilities, and we talked about those issues. They went through the vehicles that we had, and we talked about the needs and the costs of building infrastructures. But I think there's a lot of things we can do together, but it's got to be federal government, state government, and local government to work it together. There's a lot of bus lines using compressed natural gas, and there's private companies using it, and so UPS and AT&T and Pepsi, if we can get together and share those facilities with the county bus lines, we got to do it. So I think we're having those discussions. We're working on that. We've done some in California today, some joint situations. I think one in Las Vegas. But I think we need a lot more of that. We can work better along those lines. But a lot of buses out there right now, compressed natural gas. We ought to be sharing those infrastructures together.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Scott Davis, for coming to MIT and helping us. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.